Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Clickbait. This episode's a little different. You're listening, you're not watching, but you might be. You will see this on YouTube or on our Instagram page, ClickbaitBN on Instagram. But I am sitting next to my lovely wife because she's my co-host today. Serena P., welcome to the podcast.
Joe Mobley, thanks for having me.
Okay, we are doing no clickbait this week. We'll be recapping the episode because there's a lot to talk about. It was a highly entertaining episode. Zach made a no sex rule and broke it. Dumb rule, shouldn't have made it for himself, and he couldn't follow it. So we're going to break that down. And then we have Bachelor Nation breakdown. Like always, a few interesting things within Bachelor Nation. The first one is, how are you? It's a catch up. It says Mr. and Mrs. So.
All right. Well, then how are we?
How are we? Yes.
What's new, Joe?
Not much, Serena.
How's your day been?
All right. So my day's been fine. You know, we went to Iran this morning, which is nice. It's nice in New York. It's like 50 degrees. So
yeah, first
I ran
day of
outside.
Spring.
That was great.
That's good. I feel like our days have become very, not boring, but just a little more routine because we haven't been traveling as much. And when we're home, we kind of have like more of a set routine, which is nice. I like that.
And it's not summer, even though daylight savings time really messed me up this year.
Daylight savings time messes me up every year. I truly believe it shouldn't exist. I don't like it. I love that the day gets longer, but then my whole sleep schedule, my eating patterns, I feel like everything gets thrown off, even though it's just 1 hour.
Yeah. We spent some time in Toronto.
We did this month.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was good. I like Toronto. I like bringing you back there. You hadn't been there for a while either.
I haven't. But my favorite restaurant in the world is in Serena's hometown of Markham, called Ambien, and it's an Indian restaurant, and it's incredible.
It is really good. It's definitely not what I expected when you told me where your favorite restaurant in the world was going to be. But yeah, it's like an Indian restaurant in like my hometown suburb. So great. Highly recommend if you're there.
We are in the process of helping our wedding planner plan a wedding.
Yep.
So that's every day almost.
It is. It's a full-time job. So I don't even know, like, people that plan their own weddings, that's an entirely next level commitment.
Yeah.
Like, we are so grateful to have our wedding planner because truly I feel like we're doing something for our wedding every single day. But it's creeping up. We're almost 5 months out. I know.
It's going to be here before you know it. We're planning. So we have bachelorette parties.
Yep, which I've just booked my bachelorette. Joe is still...
Where are you going?
I'm going to Vegas. It'll be my first time in Vegas. I'm super excited. Joe's been to Vegas like 20 times in his life. Not exaggerating.
I go to Vegas 3 times a year.
Yeah, it's next level. And Joe was debating between Thailand, London...
No,
New York,
I was never debating
Austin,
between Thailand
and Vegas.
That is a lot. I still don't even know. I don't know. I feel like my bachelor party will be like, we'll plan like 2 weeks in advance and then just do something. And then whoever can make it makes it.
Yeah.
And whoever can't.
That's so stressful for me, but that is probably what you'll do.
Yeah. And then we have the honeymoon.
The honeymoon and also the wedding.
Well, yeah. Obviously the wedding. But we've talked about the wedding a lot. We haven't really talked about the honeymoon.
I'm excited for the honeymoon. We haven't gone on a trip together. Last trip we did that was like truly a vacation was Spain last year, which was amazing. Yeah. And I think our next like trip / vacation together will be our honeymoon. I'm really excited for it.
But I want to go back to Spain and you don't.
I don't want to go back to Spain, not because I didn't like it, but there's just so many other places in the world that I want to visit. You know, we went for 10 days to Spain last year. I wouldn't be like jumping to go back right away. Like maybe in 10 years we'll go back to Spain.
10? Where is our next Europe? Where are we going in Europe next?
I think we're doing Italy, London, or Greece. But you know where I really want to go now is Thailand after this episode. I mean, it was so beautiful.
Wow, nice callback to the
Thank
episode.
You.
Way
Thank
to
you.
go. I totally forgot that they were in Thailand. Thank you for that. You are a professional. Okay. And then we just binged the show Traitors.
We did. We probably shouldn't be talking about binging another reality TV show.
It's a different one. It's a competition show. So.
That's true. We did binge the show Traitors. It was recommended to us by a friend of mine who is a huge reality fan, and it was Joe's like first time watching a reality show, really, other than The Bachelor.
Other than The Bachelor. It was highly entertaining. I am now not that I ever wasn't I don't know if I was a fan, but I'm a huge fan of Ari now. Ari, like, he was great in the show. I was rooting for him the whole time. It's like, yes, Ari. And I'm like, yeah, I'm an Ari fan.
I'm an Ari fan too. So
Right?
Ari, if you're listening to this, we'd love to be friends. We'd love to come visit you, meet your family. We thought he was so good.
They got a great YouTube channel. Like, we really went down the Ari rabbit hole.
We're like, let's get some more content from this guy. He was so good on the show.
And Ari, if you are, if you do happen to come across this clip, we'd love to have you on the clickbait.
No, the show's great. We had a lot of fun binging that. We're looking for our next big bingeable series.
Yeah.
But I think that'll have to start when Bachelor season's over, which is actually never. Bachelor season's
No,
never over.
Bachelor keeps going. Okay. Let's go into Bachelor Nation breakdown number 2, which this happens every year.
Around this time, too. I feel like it's at the very beginning of the season and very end of the season you see this happening.
Yeah, the contestant from the past season or a few seasons ago will bring up about, like, keep your mean comments to yourself and about the trolls and how the comments do hurt. And while she's correct, and I'm with her.
And wait, tell everyone who you're talking about.
Yes, thank you. Also, thank you. Susie Evans. We also did see, I think Clayton actually just put something out as well via Instagram. Basically about, like, how the comments hurt, the mean comments hurt, and to remind fans to be nice. Right?
Yep.
Which I agree with. I'm not saying she isn't correct, but in my personal opinion, the people that are making those comments and people that are rude and will basically talk shit on social media aren't hearing Susie and are going to stop. Like, that's not going to stop them because they are, I would say, bullies of the internet, and they actually feed into that, in my opinion. But I've always said that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a group of people that hear those messages, and it's definitely acts as a reminder to just be kind. Like, maybe you typed out this message because you were so opinionated and you were really mad at Zach or whoever this week, and
that's fair.
You took a second and thought, maybe I'm just going to text this to my mom. I'm not going to post this on their social media page. But I do think there's a group of people out there that are actually sending these messages with the intent of hurting people's feelings.
Yeah.
So it's
a double-edged sword, because then when Susie says it may, there may be some people that she sways, but the haters are really like, yes, we got to someone.
Yeah, you think that it kind of is like satisfying for them to hear, like, we're doing exactly what we want to do, which is affect people and hurt their feelings and make an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think there's a group of people out there, which is so sad, but definitely true. However, I think if I'm Susie, I'm probably thinking, even if I just stop 5 people from sending hate, like,
I stop someone,
and that's an impact. And her message is great. I'm all on board with her message. Like, words do hurt. Everyone in this franchise gets hate. Some people get way more than others, and it's very difficult to deal with. And
hate also affects people differently.
Hate does affect people differently, 100%. Everyone copes with it differently and has a different response. So I'm all on board with her message. But yeah.
That's why, like,
I think this is probably a sensitive week for her and Clayton too, because this was kind of the week that she left on her season.
Yeah.
So she's probably thinking back and recalling all the hate that either herself or Clayton got this week.
And a lot of people now are comparing Zach and Clayton. But that is why, if you ask a majority of people, they wouldn't go, and I would say a lot of our listeners would say I would never go on reality TV.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is because they don't want to subject themselves to hateful opinions, because you're going to get them. Like, that's just part of it. Like, going on reality TV, there is no hiding that.
Oh, yeah. I have friends that are extremely likable people that will say, like, I won't go on this show for the sole purpose that I don't want to subject myself to getting hate from the trolls.
Yeah.
Because they ain't going anywhere.
No. I'm constantly trolling your DMs, but
yeah. My number one troll is Joe. So.
Okay. Bachelor Nation breakdown number 3. These people did decide to go on reality TV. It is Bachelor in Paradise, but it is the spinoff. It's the Canadian version. And we do have a bunch of people from the States that went on it. Your friend Chelsea Vaughn was there. Connor from our season, who dressed up like a cat on Katie's season. He was there.
Wow, that nickname has really rode him through 3 seasons
yeah, that's
now.
what happens when you dress up like a cat. But good for him. Charlene's the host.
Charlene, who is a Canadian gal. She was on Juan Pablo's season of The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And Kevin is the bartender.
Kevin is the bartender, Kevin and Astrid. And Charlene's also fun Charlene fact. She's an opera singer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a talented opera singer.
That's what compelled you to bring that up.
It's just something people may not know about her. Like we say, like, oh, she was on a past season of The Bachelor, and now she's a host, but she's also an opera singer. I guess I'm a Charlene fan. Charlene and Ari, I would love. Yeah, I would love both of them to come out. I'm very interested in your life. Seeing that you are probably the closest with Chelsea, did she anything that we could tease about the show, or did she tell you anything?
She's been pretty tight-lipped, but I do know that she went on truly just wanting to find love. Like, Chelsea's in that point in her life where she's like ready to find someone, she's open to love, and that was really what she went on hoping for. Whether she found it or not, I don't know. I'm excited to find out with the rest of the viewers. But we also saw Demi in one of the promos. Did you see that? Yeah.
I'm assuming Demi went on to host a date, but you never know with Demi.
I'm assuming that as well. So it looks like we're going to have some fun U.S. Bachelor Nation cast members, as well as maybe a couple cameos, which will be exciting to see.
Yeah, so we'll see. Check it out, Bachelor in Paradise, Canada. All right. No clickbait of the week. If hopefully you watched this week's episode, it was a good one. It was entertaining. Sex week happened. I wrote down in my notes, please stop calling it Sex Week.
This is the first time they've ever done that, right? I don't think they've called it Sex Week before this week.
Yeah, and it's just like...
Did Zach coin that term?
I'm pretty sure Zach coined that term. Okay. And it's just like, it's sex, you know? It's just not that big of a deal, especially when we're all adults at this point.
Well, it depends. It's different for everyone, you know? I feel like everyone has a different relationship with sex.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's a bigger deal than others. For me, it seems like it's not that big of a deal for Zach, but he made it a big deal for himself this week.
Yes.
And that's just an assumption. Like, I don't know.
So, okay. So for all our listeners, if you didn't catch this week's episode, Zach came out publicly on the show and told everyone that he is not having sex this week, which is fantasy suites, which is when people usually have sex for the first time.
Yeah. He said he's going to take it off the table. He was inspired by his conversation with Sean Lowe, who I believe when he was The Bachelor was waiting till marriage. Yeah. So there was no sex on the table for him at all. Yeah. But Zach, I don't think is waiting till marriage. He just wanted to completely remove it as even an option.
Which is so dumb.
Why? Why do you feel like that's so dumb?
Because it was just stupid. Like, you've been catching feelings for 2 months with multiple women. You're finally getting down to it. The temptation is going to be next level. It's just going to be so hard not to, especially if you're somebody that enjoys sex. Yeah.
My thing with it too is like, I don't think he needed to publicize his decision to not have sex.
Yeah, he could have kept that in and challenged himself internally.
Yes. I think when he told Jesse was like, buddy, are you sure you want to do that? Like, Jesse was even skeptical of his ability to withhold the whole week.
Yeah.
But my thing is like, I find with this situation, he kind of made it a him decision and not a decision made within his relationship. So like, I feel like if you're thinking you don't want to have sex, okay, like wait till you get in the fantasy suite and then talk to the women. Like, for me and for a lot of people, women and men out there, like, sex is a huge part of a relationship. And you could see on a lot of the women's faces, like, the disappointment that he kind of made that decision for all 3 of them. Like, I'm not having sex with any of you, like, the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not for, like, Jesse is a host and he should just be a host. But one time, if he was going to intervene, it should have been done. He should have just been like, listen, like, just don't say that. Just don't. All right? I'm telling you right now, as a host and your friend, shut up. But they're calling in Sean Lowe, who I believe was a virgin.
He was a born-again virgin.
He was a born-again virgin.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing, like, that's completely different because that's the standard he set for himself just period in life, on or off the show. And, like, I don't think there was any question of whether he was going to uphold that value.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, this is something that's really important to me, a life choice that I've made, and I need you to respect that if you're going to be my partner. Zach, I feel like, just made a very strong rule for himself and then publicized it and was like, I'm not having sex.
And he called it an animalistic desire. I wrote that. Okay, so
he did, which means he probably really wants to get it on.
Yeah. Let's
start from the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, let's put this in chronological order. So fantasy suite number 1, first date is Ariel's date.
Yep.
They go to a Thai market. They eat roaches and different insects, which is very common in Asia, and they actually carry a lot of protein. And they're supposed to actually be good, and I believe them when they were enjoying them.
Yeah.
Then they started like making out and eating at the same time, and that's always a no. Right?
Yeah, we're back to Bachelor loving food and sex combined.
Yeah.
Like, they just can't stay away from it. But I will say, we both said this would be like one of our favorite dates to just kind of go and explore this market and try new foods. I'm obsessed with Ariel. Like, I've been obsessed with her all season. I just think she's like an A-class woman. Yeah. She's amazing. She's confident. She's so stunning. She's intelligent. Like, she's the whole package. I love her so much.
So he tells Ariel at dinner that night, no sex.
Yeah.
And she seemed, what do you think? A little disappointed.
I think she was definitely disappointed. I mean, she
and that doesn't, not to cut you off, but that doesn't necessarily mean she was dying to have sex, but just taking sex or anything, any of the other stuff off the table.
Yeah, I think that she was probably, like, based on what she was saying, it sounded like she was going into this night open to wherever the night took them, and there was nothing off the table, and if they had sex, great. Like, she even said in her interview, like, I like to keep things sexy in a relationship. Like, I think that's an important aspect of a relationship, but I thought she handled it really well. Like, she definitely seemed like, okay, like, I'm shocked by this. I wasn't expecting it, but, like, if that's important to you, like, I respect your boundary for sure.
She's a very respectful person.
Yes, but I also understand, like, as a woman, like, you want to feel desired, and, like, if you're someone that sex is a big part of a relationship, like, starting fantasy suites on camera being like, I will not be touching you tonight, like, isn't always, like, the biggest confidence booster. Like, even if she didn't want to have sex with him, like, just having someone say to you, like, I don't want to have sex with you tonight.
Yeah, and even like if I was her, if I'm her, I'm thinking, okay, well, it's not me then. I'm
100%.
I'm the first one, and I'm clearly not getting picked. That's what I would think. But yeah,
but I do think that because he was like, I'm not gonna have sex with anyone here.
Stupid. Such a dumb rule. Why do it to yourself?
I just want to shake him and be like, Zach, you don't need to do this to yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
just stop. Okay.
It's also like, no one's like, a lot of the time people aren't that explicit with what happens in fantasy suites. Like, you can really keep that private if you want to.
Yeah. I think, okay, so, everyone's different. Everyone's going to have a different experience. But if you're listening to this podcast and you ever become the lead of the show, if you're going to do fantasy suites, go in there. And if both you and your partner consent and want to have sex, you do it.
But I do think...
And if you don't, then you don't. And if whoever the winner is, let them know at the end.
I don't know if I agree with that or
no?
not.
If they want to know, here's the thing. If you are the lead and you have sex with everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And then the person you pick, who you get engaged to, asks you, I feel like you kind of deserve, like they deserve to know.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm not saying you should lie. I actually, and like, we're getting off track here with our recap, but I respect Zach's like deep desire for honesty, and like I can very much relate to him. Like, I was also the kid that like would tattle on myself if I did something wrong. Like, I had such a guilty conscience. It would eat me alive if I always believed like honesty was the best policy, and like still to this day really believe that. So like, I understand where his intentions came from. Now we're moving past like the sex rule into him like telling people. And I do think it's a tricky situation because, like, you don't necessarily have the conversations with the women in advance of, like, are you going to have a problem if I sleep with everyone? Like, so it is a weird situation to be in. But did you think he was going to have sex with Ariel? Because I thought he was going to cave immediately. I was like, he's not making it through night one. Like,
I thought he was caving for sure. And I will say this, because he did talk about, like, Catholic guilt, and I understand that he's an honest guy, and his conscience couldn't handle it. You know, and this comes with also maturity, but he needed to realize that it wasn't just affecting him.
Yes.
Totally. And that was the problem. Like, there's other people now involved. So you have to put their feelings into consideration. And that he didn't, he just didn't do that.
Yes.
And that no fault of his own. I think he got so caught up in it. But okay.
Yeah, he made a rule for himself that was about himself. But it was affecting the other women.
Yeah.
And then he made multiple decisions that I think he thought he was doing these things for the good of the other women. But really, I think he wasn't considering their feelings enough. Like, Katie even said, like, what did you expect me to say?
Yeah.
How did you expect this to make me feel? And I think he just got caught a little short with, like, that planning process.
Yeah.
But
okay, so
on to Gabby.
Yeah. He wraps up with Ariel. It seems like they don't hook up overnight. And then we go to Gabby. Gabby is openly talking about her insecurities. She's freaking out constantly. Which at this point, like, you know, like, it's okay. Like, I get, like, that you're insecure, but everyone in this situation has to be a little insecure. You know, there's only 3 people left. The person that you're falling in love with is also dating 2 other people.
I also think that there's always one person during Fantasy Suites that's really freaking out.
Yeah, which is Gabby.
Is Gabby this season. On my season, it was Rachel. I mean, everyone, again, is freaking out. And who was it last season? Oh, Susie. Susie was, like, having a really hard time.
Yeah.
So she's the person that Fantasy Suite week, Sex Week, whatever, is really, really getting to her. But not only that, she's kind of feeling, you know, affected by her past and feeling this feeling of being second and all of these things. Like, a lot of her past insecurities seem to be coming to the surface, and she kind of confides in Zach about that. His first go of comforting her was definitely not his best. I wouldn't call that a success. I don't blame her for walking away and taking a minute and not feeling so hot about herself. But second go, he seemed to do a really good job of kind of, like, calming her down. But then if I'm in Gabby's shoes, I'm already feeling super insecure that day. Like, she's saying these things about herself. Like, I feel ugly. I feel, like, insecure. I don't feel good about myself. And then he's like, also, I don't want to have sex with you.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance that she went into Fantasy Suites.
It was a challenge.
And it was a bit of a, like overcoming that insecurity through, like, getting to have sex with her, like, as a form of validation. Now, I'm just assuming it could have totally been Zach that changed his mind and was like, no, I really want to hook up with you right now. But that's kind of where my mind goes, just like, as another woman.
I agree. So I agree with everything you said. He ended up breaking his own rule.
Not the show's rule, not the women's rule.
No one else's. This is his own rule. He set his own limitations and then broke them, which I understand because I do that all the time. I do it with everything. Like, I do it with
Joe
candy.
Will be like, I'm not going to eat fries for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then we go out the next night for dinner and he's like, but they're just so good, and orders himself a plate of fries. Like, he is not the first person to, like, try to set a rule for himself to do something that he feels is going to better himself and break it. Like, you know, it's the same as me saying, like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days this week. And then day 1, I'm like, I'm not going at all this week.
He was just in over his head. And unfortunately, he was in over his head on a television show. And there was no going back. So him and Gabby, they hook up. They leave. She's happy. He's giddy. And then he comes to the realization, oh, wait, I have one more fantasy suite. And this is with Katie, who I'm also extremely into.
Yeah.
And now Zach is feeling guilty. He needs to tell her. He wants to tell everyone. And he starts talking.
He starts talking a lot.
Starts talking, yeah. Which I like. You do sympathize with him because everybody understands what it's like to have a guilty conscience and want to get rid of it.
Absolutely.
And that's what he does. So he's on a date with Katie.
Well, first he goes and talks to Gabby.
Yeah.
And he basically...
Yes, thank you.
I really feel for Gabby in this situation because on one hand, he's saying, I'm going to go tell, Katie that we slept together. But not only is he telling Katie, he's telling everyone that's watching. So something that went down in the fantasy suite that in her mind potentially was like, this is totally private. What goes down in the fantasy stays in the fantasy suite, like
yes.
Vegas rules. I would be like, you're now coming to me and exposing this to everyone watching, all of my friends and family that I slept with you. And now you're going to go tell another girl about it too. And you're going to sit here and tell me how much you like me and that you're falling for me. Like all mixed into one. Like I was so overwhelmed by the conversation. I was just like...
Yes, but when you go on a reality show, you have to expect that everything you do has a potential to be shown.
And
but
we don't know the one time where there's actual privacy.
But we don't know the conversation they had in private. That's the one thing we don't know. So we don't know if Zach, after they slept together, had said, hey, I need to tell. We don't know how that went down. Now, if Zach said, hey, like, all right, we just slept together. It's between you and I. And then he went and told everyone.
Yeah.
That's different.
100%.
So that we don't know. But you do feel for Gabby because it feels like, shit.
Yeah, and it also was like, if I knew you were going to do this, I may have made different decisions.
Yeah.
And now that's kind of taken away from me. But she probably understands that he is in a hard position. Like, he is in a tough spot. I think...
That he put himself in.
In, 100%. But, like, he's trying... I feel like this whole week, Zach was trying to do the right thing. Like, what he believed to be the right thing. And he just made the week way harder for himself than he needed.
I feel like the whole season, Zach has been really trying to do the right thing. And for the most part, I think he has.
Yeah.
But, sometimes, like, give yourself a little grace here and, like, know that you're dating 30 women. It's not going to be smooth. Like, you're probably going to screw up a bunch. And it's, like, okay.
Yeah. He made a mistake. You know, this is his like one mistake of the season that we've seen.
Well, yeah. And it's a big one. So Gabby, you could tell now who gets in her head very easily is now definitely in her head. And she seems extremely uncomfortable and you do feel for her. And then Zach leaves and goes on a date with Katie and they're in like a little jungle area, which was just a weird...
Like in a river?
Yeah, it was a weird setting.
Well, the weirdest part is he goes, let's get out here. And I think they're going to like walk over to like a park bench or something. They literally are just sitting on a log in the swamp.
Well, you could tell he was going to say it because he's like, so like what's going on with you? Like he was like so guilty.
And she's trying to like get something out of her eye. Like it looks like she has like mascara or lash in her eye and she's kind of like looking down and he's like, you can look at me, And I'm like, oh, Zach. It's like, I can literally feel his heart racing through the screen. He's freaking out.
Yeah. And I just don't know why. And like I said, everyone's different. And it's easier said than done. But like as a viewer, I watch that and think, if I'm Zach, I get into the fantasy suites, let the cameras stop. And then I tell Katie, hey, a heads up, like, you may or may not be the only one that I've slept with. Are you okay with continuing?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's how you would do it. But like I said,
But the thing is, now he set it up on camera so much by talking to Gabby and doing all these things. Like, from a television perspective, like, there's no way they're going to be okay. And he also, I think, is like, I got to tell her as soon as possible.
So he tells her.
But yes, I agree. I think that everyone, contestants and leads included, need to take advantage of the privacy of the fantasy suites way more than they do. Like, you do not have to have most of these conversations on camera. You do not have to, like, talk about your intimacy if you don't want to on camera. Like, some of those things can just stay in the fantasy suites. That's literally why they have created them, is to give these people privacy for a few hours, to talk about what you need to do what you got to do. And I just feel like in the past, like, few seasons, like, people are like,
they spiral.
"No, I'm good. I'll just say it now.
Yeah,
I'll just say it now instead."
Yeah, they spiral right before the fantasy suite. It's like they get to the finish line and they give up. It's insane.
Like, I'm like, you're so close to being able to just completely word vomit everything you've been wanting to say to this person. You just gotta wait like a few more hours, but you just couldn't do it.
So how do we think? So he tells Katie, how do you feel she handled it?
Oh, Katie's a rock star.
Yeah,
Love
I agree.
her. She is the coolest girl ever. She was
One Canadian to the next. She has an insanely strong Canadian accent.
She does actually have a very strong Canadian accent.
She's the coolest girl ever.
No, I thought that I just thought she handled the whole thing really well from start to finish because she wasn't afraid to be honest with him and be like, this really sucks and I'm upset and but at the same time, like she understands
how the process works. Like
yes.
like going on the show, if you don't do the research to like get how this show works, like shame on you. And she understands.
Yes, and I think it's easier said than done to say like, oh, I'm okay if you sleep with me and the other two people. Like not everyone's gonna feel that way, but she was very much like, I understand how this show works. And I'm okay with the whole ignorance is bliss thing right now because now you've taken the very short amount of time that we get to spend together on this show and made it about your relationship with another woman. And now we basically have to have this argument for the next few hours, which, you know, sucks, right? Like you want every time you spend with the lead to progress your relationship to be romantic and engaging and all of these things. And now she's like, well, frick, like I want to spend this time with you and I want to enjoy it because we don't get so much of it. Now we can't enjoy it. Like we have to have this out. But like, I thought she did a good job of like.
She's in a bad mood.
Yeah, of course she's in a bad mood. Like she's like, I want to go home. I'm like, I don't blame you. I'd want to go home too. But at the same time, like she was very compassionate of like understanding Zach's position and what his role brings and why he did what he did. It was like out of a good place, but also being like, dude, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I don't think anyone, and I don't think any of the girls like question Zach's character. Like Zach is clearly a good guy.
Yes.
And he definitely worries about that, and he worries about how he's going to come across, and he just wants to make sure that everyone feels great about him and their relationships, and that's hard. But they all seem to still think like he's a good guy. Like if anything, these last three girls got to just be like, dude, like chill out.
Yeah.
Like chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, we finally get to fantasy suites. There are no more cameras. There are no more mics. Like, why did you have to do this now? Because that is the most important time that any couple, like, take the sex out of it. It's the first time you're with somebody that you're potentially falling in love with off camera.
Yeah.
Like you have, like when we did the fantasy suites, like I could have changed who I was as a person.
Oh yeah. And I remember like being aware of that. You know what I mean? Like you're aware that you're going to go into this and like potentially find out the person you've been dating this whole time is a different person when the cameras and the mics go away.
Yeah, or why that person's actually there, and then like you don't know.
Yeah.
And people once the cameras are gone, you find out how someone is.
Yeah.
And like I told you, like I'm not going to ask you to marry me.
Yeah, and then you did.
Yeah. But yeah, like that time is like, yeah, for anyone going on this show, that time is so crucial. Like,
yeah. I think going into that time with like an open mind, I don't know. It's so hard. Like, I think there's no perfect way to handle Fantasy Suite Week because a lot of the time, like, someone is going to get hurt. I mean, like, best case scenario, like, the one person you hook up with is the person you end up marrying, but like, that's not always the case.
Look, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, this show, you know, take away the past, like, 4 seasons, like, there's never really been too many issues around the fantasy suites.
Yeah, because no one talks about it.
Exactly.
Because they keep the details in the frickin' fantasy suite.
Okay, so Katie goes into the fantasy suites. We don't know, actually.
No, we do know. Because she said to...
Well, let's get there. So we don't know. After seeing her leave the fantasy suites, we don't know if they hook up.
Yes.
Then we get to the rose ceremony, where Gabby or Katie gets the first rose.
Yes.
And Gabby gets the second. So Gabby finishes second again. Unfortunately, Ariel goes home.
Did you think she was going to go home, or did you think Gabby was going to go home?
No, I knew he wasn't going to. I just off of Zach's character, I knew he was not going to sleep with someone and send them home, especially making that rule. So I knew Ariel was going home. I think she handled it extremely mature. I think she just was like, yeah, like, thanks for everything. It wasn't me.
Yeah, obsessed with her all the way till the end.
She didn't cry, which if she did, that would have been fine. I didn't really expect her to cry. You did.
No,
you did.
You said, do you think she's going to cry? And I was like, I think she might cry. And you were like, I don't think she's going to. She's a bit of I don't want to say stoic, but she's like got a bit of a colder exterior.
Yeah.
Maybe like she doesn't exude a lot of like highs and lows of emotions.
Yeah.
She kind of rides that middle ground.
Yeah. Well, at least she doesn't do it on
camera.
On camera, which good for her. So she goes home. I think she couldn't have handled it any better.
Good for her?
What?
Like good for her for not crying, or good for her for kind of like holding it together?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to like if holding it together on camera, like sometimes that's difficult. And if that's what you want to do and you do it, good for you.
Yeah, I guess so. If her intention was like, I don't want to be emotional on camera and I'm going to hold it together, then good for her. But there's nothing wrong with like crying.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's at the end of the day, like, I don't know if anyone goes on the show and wants to spiral on camera.
No, definitely not. I mean, I think that usually happens like
and that's
when
hard.
People get in their heads and they just kind of lose control.
Yeah, I did it. I did it in Paradise. I spiraled the first day. I was like, oh,
did it on every show you've been on, truly.
I'm a spiraler. So I guess that's what I mean. So Ariel goes home.
Yeah.
And we see at the end, Katie looks at Gabby and says, I know you're the only one.
Yeah.
So was that a shot? Was that a dig?
My thing is, I do think there's context that we're missing. Not full context, but a little bit. Because how would Gabby have known right away that she was talking about sex? Do you know what I mean? Like, if someone said, I know you're the only one, I'd be like, I was the only one what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like there must have been some conversation about Fantasy Suites going on before that clip. Or maybe there was conversations that we missed. I don't know. It just felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. But either way, like, bold move for Katie to basically call her out and say, you were the only one that slept with him this week. And it did definitely confirm that he didn't sleep with Ariel, which we already knew, or Katie, which they never had really said. And I honestly assumed that he and Katie hooked up. I don't know why. I just think they have a really strong connection, and I don't know. I would have kind of probably bet towards they did, but now we know for sure that he only slept with Gabby.
I'm surprised. I'm actually really surprised that he didn't hook up with Katie.
Yeah.
And it does.
Because at this point, and like, I could be wrong, but like, it seems like him and Katie have a stronger connection and just a greater sense of compatibility than him and Gabby do.
Well, now you see like, at least what they show, it seems like Zach is like talking and directing his conversation at the end towards Katie.
It does look like that.
Gabby's looking like, I'm the number 2, I'm pissed, and I slept with you.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that slept with you.
Yeah. It's super. Well, also, I think that if Zach was pretty sure that Katie wasn't the one, he probably would have just sent her home instead of like if I'm Katie and I'm like, you've just told me you slept with another girl and I'm like fighting it out to still be here and make this relationship work. Like, I better be the one you choose at the end of this if you're going to put me through this.
I think if Gabby was the one, he probably wouldn't even have told Katie he slept with her.
He would have sent her home.
He would have he would have just been like, hey, just so you know, going into the fantasy suites, we're not having sex.
Yeah.
And I think he would have just chosen Gabby if Gabby was the one.
Yeah.
To me, it just like, it seems like it's 100% Katie.
Yeah, and I also think that, I don't know, like we said, Gabby's someone that gets in her head. Like, this is going to affect her moving forward too.
Oh yeah.
Like, we're gonna see this unravel even further.
Yeah. So.
But I do feel bad for Gabby. Like, when she was like, I feel like there's a freaking scarlet A on my chest. Like, I get it, you know? She's like, everyone is gonna criticize me essentially for having sex with him, especially when he was so upfront about saying like, oh, I didn't want to. Like, I'm sure there's people out there being like, you monster, you seduced him. Like,
I guess we'll see how this all unravels. I believe that I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to make good TV. I think Gabby's probably going to lose her shit. And we'll see how if Katie's affected or not.
do you think this season ends in an engagement?
I think this season ends with an attempted engagement.
Ooh.
So I don't know if either of the girls will say yes, because I don't know what's going to happen. But I think Zach definitely gets down on one knee. My head now is like, okay, we got some good girls coming off this season. Who's going to be in paradise? Yeah. You have to think if Gabby is not the chosen one, she'll be there. Ariel will be there. That's right there, the top three. What do you think? Who are all the guys going for in paradise?
Who are the guys going for in paradise? I mean, we've got, to take it back even, we've got Jess, we've got Kat, we've got
Brooklyn, I'm just
Gabby, Ariel.
I'm more focusing on the later.
Well, then, Gabby and Ariel, the two girls that we think don't end up with Zach. If Gabby ends up with Zach, then I would say Katie is going to be a hot commodity in paradise. If neither of them end up with Zach, then...
Do you think Ariel will go
to paradise?
Yeah, because she strikes me as I think she would be the one that everyone is going for. Yeah. But she also strikes me as someone that might just be like, nah, I'm done.
I don't know. I mean, I think when you come off the show and you have such like a loved response from the viewers, like she was really a fan favorite this season. I feel like she was someone that really grew on everyone as the season went on, and I think there'll be a lot of guys in her DMs. I think there'll be a lot of guys that are interested in her. Like, why wouldn't she go on? Do you know what I mean? Like, she was obviously able to either leave her job or get the time off for this show. If she can do it again, like, I don't think there's any reason to not do it for her.
I agree.
And I just think, like, with the success rate of Paradise being so high lately, like, if she is someone that's still looking for love when the filming time comes, like, there's a good chance you can find someone. We found someone. We found each other.
Look at that. Now we're podcasting, sitting here talking about the show. Okay. I think we could wrap it. I mean, that's the episode. Everyone stay tuned next week, because next week's the finale.
It's crazy. It's already the finale.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, thank you so much for having me on Clickbait today. It was fun joining you from our couch in the living room. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And Bachelor Nation, make sure to tune in to ABC at 8 p.m. next Monday, March 27th, for the dramatic live finale of Zach's season. You can also stream it the next day on Hulu. I can guarantee we will be tuning in. I'm excited to see what happens.
And as always, make sure to subscribe and submit all your questions. We want to know what clickbait you're getting into. Follow us on social at ClickbaitBN on Instagram. All the links to all our accounts are on that page. People.
And share your stories with us. We want to know what clickbait you're looking at this week. And Prime members, make sure to listen to Clickbait ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today, or you can listen ad-free with Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts. But before you go, tell us about yourself by completing a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
Serena, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And to our listeners, we'll see you guys all next week. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.